we're gonna head into onto the medical committee. Basically, what happened is the board of directors decided when we got elected last year that everyone that chaired a committee would be a member of the ADC. So, you know, Andy Foster was a very, very big opponent of myself and the whole board. So one day we were talking about it, and I said, let's make Andy chairman of the medical board. Well, Andy wasn't even on the phone with us. So I called Andy up and said, hey, congratulations, you're the chairman of the medical board. So, and actually the nice thing is there's numerous ARP doctors that sit on the board with him. And this is where I, myself and the board of directors, as well as Andy, would love to have a relationship with the Association of Ringside Physicians. So that's something else I want you guys to think about for the next couple of days. And you know, they're without them sitting ringside as doctors, you know, we wouldn't be educated like we are right now. So they're going to Andy and Dr. Swanek will be passing some literature out. Dr. Lovelace, Dr. Musey as well. So here they are. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry Lovelace, Don Musey. They're passing out some forms. Mike in Missoula said that he frequently gets calls from just various places for forms. You have a standardized form for pre-bout physical, post-bout exam, licensing history physical, annual history physical. And there really were no standard forms. I have my own Lovelace form that we use at the places I work. He has his forms, he works in 4 or 5 different states. It's just a cornucopia of forms right out there. And they're all good forms. But it'd be nice to have just a standard form that you can refer to and you can use as your default form. And that's what this is. This is a default form. Yeah, and they're passing them out for you to look at, but they'll be on the website as well. These forms are a compilation of about a dozen different docs. They're all docs that you guys know and love. They work with you. They're with us on the medical committee. Nick Rizzo is a big part of it. They're a doctor in Chicago. We all had input, and you know it's kind of like naming a puppy. Everybody wants to be the guy to name the puppy. And we fought over it for a long time. We finally got a form that everybody was happy with. It's not absolutely perfect in my mind. It's not absolutely perfect in anybody's mind, but it's really good in everybody's mind. So that's what we're presenting. We didn't want to just hand out a form and say, here it is, go with it. We kind of wanted to tell you why we got the form and what's on it.
Yeah, so let me go to the pre and post-op exam first, kind of work backwards. If you just look at, we have vital signs, okay, and you're probably all doing it, but obviously there's disqualification criteria for blood pressures, temperatures, and respiratory, but just basic hospital evidently are disqualifying conditions. We also, if you start to look at the physical things, we have alertness and orientation. We have to know pre-bout what's the fighter look like. Is he awake? Is he oriented the person, place, and time? Likewise, we look at that post-bout. We have head and periorbital just means rocket eyes. And if you're ready to perform these on the head, if they're there pre-bout, they're going to be there post-bout. That's why we're looking. This one may confuse a lot of you guys. We look at people equally around reactive to length of consolidation and are the extraocular muscles in that division. Suffice it to say for now, there's a lot of information. If you look at the pathways of the brain, it's responsible for moving right up and not back and forth. It's an incredible network in your brain that allows you to do that. We get an awful lot of information. That's why we do a pre-bout.
There's also a certain small percentage of people that normally have one pupil bigger than the other. It's just the way they were built, the way they were made. Your doctor needs to know that before they get knocked out. Because if he doesn't know that before they get knocked out and he opens their eyes and says, wow, this pupil's blown, he's going to think some kind of brain damage. So it's important to look for that and know that there's things that are
Sure. We also talk about, obviously, we'll just say the nose, ears, head. In boxing especially, literally 90% of the injuries that occur take place from that's why there's a focus on the head and neck, because that's the capacity where the injuries take place. And the nasal difference will get on to that. Obviously, we have to do a heart and lung exam. Heart is a cardiac practice officer, just a cursory lung exam, and then we're going to go on to the upper and lower extremities. There's things that we do to just evaluate the joints. Obviously, in MMA, joint injuries are more common, but we have to know what they look like, those three and those up. Some of these things, I'm going to go way to the far right. We check what we call tandem walking. So, guys are going to kind of do this like that, the sobriety test on get on from the police force. So what I'm actually going to do is you call it the finger to nose, close your eyes, this sort of thing. Then what we call wrong road test. I'll do it later.
With a lot of things we're doing with this, so I've got to explain why we do
I've got to stand here with his eyes closed. I want the people. Keep your palms up. So, I want him to close his eyes. I'm getting so much information just from having him do this. If your docs aren't doing this on test, they're really messing up. So I'm looking for a couple things. Is he wobbling? He's wobbling. He may have a brain disorder or cerebral problem that we don't know about. He should be rock steady, especially if he's getting ready to go fight. I'm also looking at his hands. Is he slowly coming down, or is he slowly turning over? Huge sign that there's something really wrong with this guy. And lastly, we say, keep your eyes closed. Touch your nose with that finger. Touch your nose with that finger. Looks easy. What am I looking for? That's what's the key. What I'm looking for is that finger comes in, does it start to trim? That's a horrible thing to do. If he comes in and misses, I don't really care. I'll just try again. I can't believe I'm missing. We'll just try again. Well, what's bad is if he starts shaking like that, he's got some kind of problem.
There's a reason why we're doing what we call these cerebellar testing. When obviously your brain sits inside the skull. Now the spinal cord exits the brain through a hole down into your spine. That hole is called the foramen magnum. On top of that sits the cerebellum. When you get blows to the head, repeated blows to the head, one of the first signs you'll see of brain deterioration regarding to chronic CTE is the cerebellar signs, because that brain is getting pounded against that hole. It shows up there first. That's why in the pre-op physicals we're focusing in on that part of the brain.
So, basically, I think it'd be wise for people just to see what a normal neuro exam looks like. It takes about 30 seconds. All right, so would you please stand up and close your eyes, feet together, hold your arms out in front of you, palms up, touch your nose with this finger, touch your nose with this finger. Open your eyes, put your hands down, do a scrape like this, feel the shit like that. Have them scrape like that. Again, if they can't do that, something wrong with their cerebellum. Stand on your toes, rock back and stand on your heels. Your doctor will be doing that on all your fighters, okay? Close your eyes, arms out in front of you. Now I'm going to push you, don't fall down. If he takes a step, that's all right. If he opens his eyes, so make sure he doesn't fall, that's a problem, okay? Okay, well, we'll do things like this. Things like this, check reflexes. We'll check here, we'll check the knees. And then the critical is a cranial exam. Follow my finger. Close your eyes, tight your chin. Puff your cheeks out a little bit. Go with a smile. Push your shoulders up. All 12 cranial nerves, except for one. The test, the one we did the best was vision, and I can tell that you can look at it, and it is the best is escape or smell. That's all 12 cranial nerves, and the bulk of major neurologic exam done. And that's the reason we have that. We have the individual step on the nerve exam in case your doc forgets.
We're doing these post-op. What we're looking for are changes from baseline. I've often been asked, when do you start your post-op? When do you do your post-op exam? The post-op exam starts when the horn or the bell rings on round one.
So if you go and look at the history form, again, the medical committee doesn't want to just throw a form at you and say, this is it, take it. I want to tell you why we've got what we've got. In the history, we just got a lot of vague questions that may seem vague to you and it may seem vague to the fighter, like do you have ever had any of the following: seizures or flashing lights, headache or dizziness? And a lot of these are kind of repetitive and redundant, trying to catch the guy that really has got some chronic headaches and he's trying to hide it. We'll ask it in a different way. And sometimes we can find guys that are trying to hide something. Have you ever had a concussion, a head injury, or lost consciousness? it's really important to know if he's recently been knocked out. We're worried about second impact syndrome. If he's had a head blow recently, he may be at risk for a second impact syndrome. Right there, number 2, if you ever use steroids, testosterone, or banned substances. Get it right out in the open. If they say no, then they're on record. Penalty of perjury, they're saying no, they have not. What else? The rest of it is a lot of the typical stuff you would expect to see. At the very bottom, they've got, I hereby authorize the athletic commission, blah, 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 blah. They're giving us permission to access their records. We can follow up and see how they're doing. We can look back and see what they've done in the past. And then, I haven't read the whole thing in a while, but there's a blurb on here where they say, I am fit to fight. I've been training, and there's nothing wrong with me. So it prevents that guy from, after the fight, well, you know, I've had the flu, no wonder I lost. Well, my hand's been hurting me for weeks since that skateboard accident, and no wonder I lost. We're getting them to sign on the bottom line that they're healthy, they're fit, and they're ready to go. And I think that's important medically and from a legal liability.
Are there any questions on the 3? Go ahead. So that's our basic 3 that goes by history of business. We want the licensing exam. Now, what happens when we look at the licensing exam, what happens is most often the ringside physician is not going to be licensed. He goes to another doctor who has to approve this patient, the fighter to fight. So we have to make it simple, easy, and quick for them to fill out because it's an expense. They may not understand very well what to do. So the purpose of this form, it's really just a little more expansion of the pre-bout form. And it becomes, like I said, a roadmap for the consulting physician, and it's quick. It's check boxes. It eliminates physicians' handwriting, which we all know how bad that is. It also adds various tests that are required. Different commissions require different tests. Different fighters, depending on their age, require different tests. They're all here, whether positive, negative, or not applicable. Any questions on them?
Anybody have any questions on the board? I'm sure you've read them all.
We have the ophthalmologic exam, which basically this exam needs to be done by the ophthalmologist, and some commissions do allow an ophthalmologist to do it. The eyes are particularly susceptible to injury. Eye injuries are frequent in boxing if you look for them. We cannot, a ringside physician, or for that matter, a physician in his office cannot do an adequate eye exam. You need to have a fundoscopic. The doctor's looking with that thing in the back of your eye. It would be called dilated exam. The pupils are made real big so you can see all around the periphery of the posterior portion of the eyeball to look for injury. That's really rather critical. Any other question?
The question I was going to say, I was going to ask about what is the difference? Why do you need an ophthalmologist versus an ophthalmologist? So just for an eye exam, they get a dilated eye exam.
Frank, in my opinion, for your basic screening exam, you do not. I mean, the difference between the ophthalmologist and the physician who can.
If there was damage.
Right, an optometrist, they all know what they're doing, will know when to refer. If he or she sees something, he knows that, oh, I see something on that retina, I don't like it, now it's time to go see the ophthalmologist.
And on the same token, just as a tangent, if you need prescriptions for your glasses, you probably go to an optometrist. Ophthalmologists can do that. They don't do that all the time. That's all the optometrist does, exams and prescriptive lenses.
On the ophthalmological form, like those two terms, and I was wondering if it might be a good idea to try and simplify aphakia and pseudoaphakia. Maybe there's a chance. I'm concerned less about fighting about
Well, this is not this is the physician. Or the optometrist would.
No, it says history.
Yeah, the doctor will go through and say, but you're right. If the fighter is expected to fill this out at home, those are very good. That's a very good point. Any other questions?
We just submit the forms for you guys to review. that perfect world, everybody would say, let's use these forms, and everybody can use the same forms throughout the ABC, and just make the act collection a lot easier, research would be a lot easier, and just make it easier to take care of people.
Made a recommendation for 25 medical.
No, we have.
Are you talking for?
You mean like disqualifying conditions?
Oh, yeah, that's, see, the question was, has the ARP made up a list of rules for disqualifying a fight or medical criteria? That's what our whole conference is about. Our whole conference is about what lab test should you do to disqualify somebody, what physical exam, what EKG findings. We have actually put a book together, put on our website. We have position statements on what constitutes a bad blood disease risk, what constitutes a bad EKG, what constitutes a bad RCT. We should probably do it. Let's put it together.
For example, say that all patients should require, and all patients should require alcohol.
That's a good point. All commissions should do this, and all commissions should do that. We don't want to get political. We're just docs, and we want to make sure everybody stays safe. We can make recommendations that if the commissions want to, and we can make a very strong recommendation. But I would never say all commissions should do it.
Why would that's not political? That I deal with things all over the United States.
No, I'm happy to make the suggestion that all commissions should require an ophthalmologic exam on all fighters and an MRI on all fighters. But the truth is, there's limited resources in some commissions. Some commissions and states, tribes, they can't afford to get an MRI in every one of them. So I'm there to say, this is the medical recommendation, but I would never say you should do that.
Well, it's no different.
Well, in my
Recommendations should. It's no difference. Plus, you're an attorney.
clearly an attorney. Yeah, I don't feel comfortable with that.
Basically, what happens a lot is that in the states that have administered those tests or require those tests, they're shared with other states. They call around and ask, please send us. So that, I think, is not really a deterrent.
Well, you know, what she, in case you couldn't hear, she's basically talking about herd immunity. If Kansas or Oklahoma or Texas can't afford to have all their fighters get an MRI or an EKG, well, they can go fight in Mississippi and they can get those tests done, and then through reciprocity, and then Mississippi may be a bad choice, I'm ready to go to New York, they can get those tests done, and by way of reciprocity, they've got those tests because they're good for a year or 2 years, whatever the conditions decide. So you're right, it can benefit from her.
So are there any plans to try to unify the medical requirements
Yes.
from your group to maybe this group?
The question
so
is,
that it
rather,
would be across the nation that fighters that have to have these basic requirements.
Much of what you're saying we have on our website. We have recommendations for pre-bout, laboratory, radiologic testing, EKG, that sort of thing, given ages of fighter. And if you're looking for kind of some absolutes, remember it gets difficult. We can't put, for example, all fighters with a heart murmur should not fight, because heart murmurs can be benign. They could be devastating. So there's the art and the individual practitioner that has to have discretion, so we're not to let the fighter fight. But the guidelines you're talking about, the vast majority of what you said is on our website. And like Larry said, it's evolving. Like I said, our invested worlds, we're hoping to have a relationship with this organization. So we heard what you just said. We have some ideas now of what we need to focus our next thoughts on to make these things a little clearer and a little more available.
So you said how you just make a recommendation blanketly, but you don't come to us and say we'd like to see that, like vote on it.
no, we were just appointed to the medical committee at the last conference you guys had. I would love what you said to take effect. That's fine. I would love for us to be the medical army to tell you guys this is what you should be doing. and maybe so. But we're not there yet.
Well, wait,
Soon we will.
let's just be clear about what this group can do, because it's very important. This group is composed of states and tribes. This group, independently, with a couple of minor exceptions, that are in the Muhammad Ali Act, has no independent power to require a state to adopt any specific regulations. The idea of this group was to attempt to standardize by making recommendations to the individual states. So one step beyond what you said, which is to make recommendations to this group. Those recommendations have to go. And it also ties in, I must say, to the liability issue. Because our recommendations, they can be made, and frankly, people are taking it seriously. Because it creates a standard of liability.
Exactly. And I understand, I'm a commissioner as well, I understand what you're saying. And I guess nothing that I'd love to see these forms adopted, and we would love to add to your database guidelines, recommendations for future members.
And the ability to roll of legislation and add the proposal as this group did require.
Pat, this is the first step. I think it's good.
Well, I'm not making that at all.
And, you know, I mean, let me tell you the situation right now we have in California. So you know, Big Greg down there has a requirement that you have to have his form. Okay? So all my promoters get all their meds done with Texas forms. You know why? They fight in California, they fight with Bob, they fight with Greg. And so me and Bob take forms. We take them. Greg can't. So we get them done on Greg's form, and we have a whole office full of Texas forms, which is fine. I mean, which is fine. So when we were looking at this, we were looking at everybody's form, and we tried to encompass all the different requirements that some of the various states have, because I think it'd be just a little bit easier for the sake of just, okay, I can't take this form because of X, Y, and Z, but I can take Greg's, and then I'll call in some of the Midwest states, my AG won't let me take, I can take Haskell's form. It's kind of spread out, and we all talk to each other every day. I mean, we're on the phone with each other asking for this stuff, sending the request. So that was the kind of the idea behind this. We're not trying to get states to change their regs or do all this stuff. It's just a form.
It's basically a promoter will call me up and say, "Hey, Commissioner, I need some forms. What do you have? I'm in Kansas and I need these forms." We'll go to the ABC website, download these forms. They're accepted everywhere, except Big Greg, everywhere in the country, and it works out. I mean, my biggest problem in Massachusetts, they're not here, but I'll tell Gary Litchfield to his face, is doctors don't sign the forms. Physician's assistants sign them and stuff. And I can't accept those forms at MOE. So that's why we discussed this with the medical committee. So if a promoter calls you up and says, we need some forms, we'll go to the ABC website and download these. They should work anyway. That's the big picture. That's a real reason.
And that's, he just spelled it out. Anyway, I want to thank my medical members. I mean, this was, you know, I deal with doctors in the state commission through the MAC, and, you know, getting doctors' time is very valuable. And getting as many doctors on this committee that participated 12 or 14 times over the past year was really exceptional. They took a lot of time developing this. So I'm hoping you guys will check it out and use it and put it up on the website.